Thanks to my lovely viewers on YouTube, I received a payout, so I have bought a selection of yarns to test out on the Sentro knitting machine. Let's take a look at the yarns that I got. So I bought the Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk in Rainforest Dew. It comes in a 25 gram Aran weight ball. It was £2.80, which works out at about £11.20 per 100 grams. It's 23% silk and 77% alpaca. This was the most expensive yarn that I bought. Next, I bought King Cole Big Value Recycled Dishcloth Cotton in cream, which comes in a 100 gram yarn ball, Aran weight. It was £2.39, and because it's a 100 gram ball, it was £2.39 per 100 grams. It's 15% polyester and 85% cotton. Next, I bought Drops Bomull-Lin yarn in the colour Sand, and this was a 50 gram weight Aran ball, which was £2.50, so that's about £5 per 100 grams. This was 47% linen and 53% cotton. Next was Wendy with Wool in the silver. This was a 100 gram ball, DK weight, and it was £2.99, so that's £2.99 per 100 gram. This one's 25% wool and 75% acrylic. Next was King Cole Forest, and this was a 100 gram ball, Aran weight, and it was £3.19, which is £3.19 per 100 grams. This one was 20% polyamide, 25% viscose, 35% wool, and 20% acrylic. Next was Stylecraft Life Yarn in cream. This was a 100 gram ball, Aran weight, which was £3.39, which was £3.39 per 100 grams. This one's 25% wool and 75% acrylic. Next is the Sirdar Country Style in Naturelle, and this is a 50 gram DK ball, which was £2.99, which works out to be £5.98 per 100 gram. This is 40% nylon, 30% wool, and 30% acrylic. Next, I bought Drops Nepal in chalk, which was a 50 gram Aran weight ball, which was £2.30, which is about £4.60 per 100 grams. This is 65% wool and 35% alpaca. Next was Drops Alaska in wheat, which is also a 50 gram Aran weight ball. This was £1.80, which was very cheap, which turned out to be about £3.60 per 100 grams, and this is 100% wool. Next, I bought the knitting podcast favourite, which is often labelled as the best budget option, the Lion brand Fisherman Wool, and I bought this in colour Oatmeal. It was a massive ball of 227 grams, Aran weight, which was £10.49, and works out to be £4.62, which is actually more expensive. As it was such a big ball, it was actually 10 times more expensive than the Drops Alaska. So budget option, I think maybe not, but we'll see. So next to knit them all up on the machine, I decided for speed to make tubes and do 50 rows of each. I tried to maintain the same tension and speed for all the yarns to make it fair, and I left any imperfections. For each yarn, I'll be looking at the ease of use on the machine. Does it snag? Does it drop stitches, etc.? We'll look at the fabric qualities. Is it dense or gauzy? Is it stiff or drapey? I'll compare the gauge, and then I'll also do a softness test. And obviously this is just my own opinion of whether I think it feels nice or not. So we'll start with the fails. As predicted, I didn't think cotton yarn would go through the machine very well, and when I put the King Cole dishcloth, which was 85% cotton through, it was very bad. It snagged on everything, it just didn't go very well. It dropped stitches, yeah. And it was the same with the Drops Bomull-Lin, which I was excited for, a linen yarn because I thought that's going to be lovely for summer things, nice and breathable, but it just didn't go through the machine very well. And I don't know whether that is the linen or whether the 53% cotton causing that, but either way, I wouldn't buy this yarn again. Next, the yarns that weren't so good on the machine. So the drops brushed alpaca silk. It seemed to push all of the fuzzies and fluff to the wrong side of the fabric. I don't know if it's the way it goes through the machine. I wasn't sure if this is what the yarn was supposed to look when I knitted it up, so I looked at a few hand knit projects on Ravelry to see what it looked like when it's been knit by hand, and I'll put a few pictures up on the screen and you can see it looks nice, it looks perfectly fine, but it's certainly not the result that I got on the machine. So not a fail because it did knit and it went through the machine lovely, but it's not the look I was going for. Yeah. Okay, and the next one that didn't really work so well was the Sirdar country style. I did get a few dropped stitches with this one. I don't know whether it is the nylon making it a bit too slippery when the needle's trying to pull it down into the machine. It wasn't as bad as the cottons, by no means, and I do think you could still use this on the machine, but you are going to have to watch it and possibly do a couple of fixes. So if this yarn is something you like the feel of and the look of, then do that, but proceed with caution. And the other 6 yarns went through the machine absolutely fine. So starting with the Wendy with wool, it's lighter because it's a DK, so it did produce quite a area, nice lightweight fabric. It was a little bit prickly for me, and also the gauge that we were given was 30 rows and 22 stitches. I got 22 rows and 15 stitches, so it's not as tight as the manufacturer recommends, so that might be why it's a little bit more transparent, see-through, than what I would like, because with the machine just it can't knit it tight enough. So for the softness rating, we put them all in order of 1 being the best and 6 being the worst. My husband gave this a 3, I give it a 4, so it's about in the middle of softness of the rest of the yarns that we tried. So the next one was King Cool Forest, and this one is 35% wool, and it seemed quite thin for an Aran weight yarn, but the fabric was okay. Density wise, it did produce a nice fabric. The gauge was supposed to be 25 by 18. I got 21 by 16. So again, the machine isn't knitting this as tight as the manufacturer wants it to be knit. So I mean, you could just pull tighter and see if you could get that gauge. And this one, for softness, my husband gave it a 4 and I gave it a 3. So I felt this one was a little bit softer than the Wendy with wool. The next one is Stylecraft Life, which was the 25% wool. To be honest, this one reminded me the most of the cheap Aran weight yarns I've been working with for now, but it does feel a little bit less silky, so I don't know if it's just because it has the high acrylic content, and that's what makes it feel so familiar to me. But seeing as it reminds me so much of the acrylic, I'm not sure that 25% is worth the price. And again, the gauge was supposed to be 24.18. I got 21.15. Again, it's just not knitting it tight enough. But this one I thought was the second softest of all the ones that I tried. And the next one I tried was Drops Nepal, which is 65% wool, 35% alpaca. And this creates a lovely, dense, drapey, silky soft fabric. You can feel the wool, but I definitely think that alpaca makes it feel lovely and soft. and this was my favourite of all of the ones that I tried, and it was also my husband's favourite as well. For the gauge, it's supposed to be 22 by 17. I got 20 by 14, so again, it's not as tight as the manufacturer would like. But I will be trying this one again. I think this is the only yarn that I would actually buy again to actually make something with. But moving on, Drops Alaska, which was the affordable 100% wool. It was dense, stiff, rough and itchy. Not a fan at all. Both me and my husband thought this was the second worst. So I mean, it is affordable, and if you do like the feel of wool, this could be for you. Again, the gauge was supposed to be 22 by 17. I got 20 by 13. So again, it's just not tight enough. But the fabric I got was dense, so I'm not sure you would actually want to knit this as tight as they want it to be, because I think you could wear this if you could handle the wool against your skin, and you wouldn't have to wear a t-shirt underneath, but it's 100% wool, so you probably would anyway. And finally, the Lion Brand Fisherman's 100% wool. This gives the exact same gauge as 100% acrylic, which is interesting. But it's thick and heavy and scratchy and awful, and both me and my husband hated it. As I said, the gauge that the machine gave was 18 by 14. The manufacturers recommend a gauge of 22 by 16. But I won't be working with this yarn again. If anybody has any ideas of what I could make with this yarn that isn't wearable, because I will not be putting this next to my skin. It feels, quite frankly, awful. But overall, I'm not a massive fan of any of these yarns, and the thing they all have in common is wool, so I'm thinking maybe just wool isn't for me. And it's also interesting to see that none of these yarn give the correct gauge that the manufacturer recommends, so I think that needs some investigation as well. I think if I can find a yarn where the machine gives the actual gauge that the manufacturer recommends, I think that'll really help with the look and feel of the projects we create on these machines. So definitely some more experimenting needs to be done. And I did enjoy this little experiment, so I think I will be doing it again. I think I'm going to try more alpaca yarns, seeing as that was the one I preferred the most, even though it still had a higher concentration of wool. So I'm thinking maybe if I can find an acrylic alpaca, that might be the one for me. But then I'm also maybe thinking about trying some merino and maybe some cashmere, if I can find some affordable options. If you have any requests or suggestions of yarns that you want me to try, please leave them down below, because I definitely will be doing this again. This is the start of my Aran cardigan project, because I think it's going to be a lot of time and effort. I want to use the right yarn, so I want to use something that's going to last through multiple washes, something that's going to feel soft, and something that I'm just going to want to wear every day. So if you're interested in seeing this project develop, please subscribe. Otherwise, have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.